So on this great interview, I've got one-to-one with the man himself, Paul from Spurs. Thank you for joining me.
Pleasure. Good to see you, Reegan.
It's great to have you on, Paul. I mean, I've been down to so many games, and you've been on the pitch talking to some great players on the pitch during the match days. Talk to us a bit about that, because for me, that would just be a dream job for me. But what a job you've got, Paul.
It is. It is a dream job. It's ridiculous. I've always been a fan since I was a little boy. My dad used to take me, and then his dad used to take him. So we've got Spurs is in the family all these years. And I'll tell you briefly how I got the job, because we used to have a season ticket, and then my dad was ill, and then we stopped going. And then, so we're looking back about 2004, I think it is. Yeah, 2004. Okay. And so it's going back a long way. And then my wife is from Norwich. Spurs were playing Norwich, and I was speaking to a guy I used to work with at Capital Gold, was the radio station, David Jensen, very well-known DJ. Yes. Yeah, and I said to him, yeah, do you know anybody at Spurs? Because I want to take my wife, and if there's, basically I was on the blag there, Reegan. That's what I was on. And he said, look, I know. And he said, hey, I know this guy. I know this Mike Rollo, and he was the commercial director at the time. Right. And he said, I'll have a word with him. So anyway, I get a call from Mike, who luckily used to listen to me on the radio, and said, would you be at all interested in hosting in one of the lounges? So I'm like, what, are you kidding me? And he said, no, just come along, bring your dad, bring your wife, and enjoy the day and see how you get on. And I'll tell you, because I grew up a Spurs fan, and I was meeting all my heroes that I grew up watching from when I was very small, everybody from Pat Jennings to everybody at Paul Allen and Chivers and everybody. I was terrified, and it was just like, oh God, it was just too much. It was so overwhelming. So then they said, look, we haven't got anybody to do the man of the match. Can you host the man of the match thing? So I said, yeah, I could do that. So although I was very nervous, once I got the microphone in my hand, because that's what I've always done, it was easy. And I just did a little chat, did that in front of the crowd. And they said, well, that's great. Can you come back next week? And then that was it. And honestly, that was it. And then about a year later, did my first thing on the pitch, which was David Ginola at halftime against Fulham. And since then, I've been getting away with it ever since. And it is a dream job to be able to go support my club, meet all the players, do all that. Honestly, it's the next best thing to play. It really is.
Yeah, so you spoke about growing up a Spurs fan. Who would be your kind of players that you would have looked at, Paul?
Hoddle. For me, it was Glenn Hoddle.
Yeah, Glenn Hoddle.
Yeah. First time I ever went to Spurs was 76. So I was 8 or 9 years old, and I went in 1976, and it was Spurs v QPR. And we lost 3-0, and Glenn Hoddle made his full debut, funnily enough, the week after that at Stoke, where he scored that great goal, and John Pratt said, hit it hard, and anyway, all the rest is history. So yeah, he was for me. I was a Pat Jennings fan when I was a kid, still the greatest goalkeeper I ever saw, but the greatest player still for me was Glenn Hoddle, an absolute genius. And lucky enough, years later, then I've got to know him as a friend. And it's one of those things that I still never take for granted, because every time I look at him, I'm just like, oh, you're Glenn Hoddle. Yeah. So that never, ever goes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Dembele. I thought Dembele was a sensational player when he was.
Oh, brilliant. Most underrated player the Premier League's ever seen. I mean, every player that you'd speak to that played against him, or even in training, and all his teammates would all say, when they say, who's the best player? They played with Bale, they played with Modric, but they would always seem to say, Moussa Dembele. What a genius he was.
Yep. I now want to get on to, obviously, Antonio Conte. So yeah. I think for me, watching Spurs from since I was about 12 and now I'm 24, I mean, from watching them since then, you've got the days of Redknapp. I'll never forget the one where Sandro put the ball at Stamford Bridge, scored an absolute worldly goal. But I think Antonio Conte's really changed the mentality around the club. I think everybody's just feeling a lot better. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Funny you should mention Sandro, because I just had an Instagram message from Sandro about five minutes ago, and he's in Brazil at the moment. And we've sort of he was always really great fun. He used to come up to do man of the match. He'd sing and he'd have a guitar, and he's one of the great characters. So it's funny you should mention Sandro. But yeah, Conte is. You're right. I think everybody would agree. There's been a few peaks and troughs. We've had a lot more peaks than going back to when I was your age and when I was watching Spurs. And he's coming. He's the guy that we wanted. Poch was great. Then it did obviously go a little bit wobbly, as we know, after the Champions League final. Then Nuno came in and that didn't work. And now there is, I can sense it. And just not only sort of working there, because I'm there just as much as any fan is. So I think every fan feels it the same way. There's a new confidence, there's a new excitement, and we feel that something's happening because he's the best manager there is around at the moment. Reegan, I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, I think he's probably in the top 3 managers, maybe to manage a team at the moment.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Because for me, I think it just shows the total the strength that Tottenham has with the players. Paratici being the director of football.
Yep.
You've also got the best training ground, the best stadium on the planet as well. It's incredible.
So you went to both though, did you? You went to White Hart Lane and obviously been to the new stadium.
No, I've not been to White Hart Lane. No.
Right, you never experienced White Hart Lane.
I was going to ask you that. See, in terms of me watching, right? I'll never forget the full last season. We went unbeaten in that stadium.
Yeah.
What was it like to go there on that final season and go unbeaten? Because it must have been incredible.
It was. No, it was unreal actually, because I remember we used to speak about this. And you could see the new stadium, which was coming up. See, there we are. So so we're about, that's further along, whereas the stadium was sort of a little bit further in there. Yeah. And it was, if I move over there, it was about here. So, and then the stadium's moved along a bit. But honestly, I was doing the weather there for a second. I was just being weather. But it was a bit surreal because the whole stadium was building up around it, and we could see that. And I was asking a lot of old players, and we were all having the same discussion. How are we going to feel? Because at the moment, it didn't feel like it was real. It didn't feel like it was going to go. And although we'd lost one sort of a corner and bits were going as we were moving through the season, it didn't actually really feel like we were going until right at the very end, until the finale, which was the greatest thing for me to ever do in my professional career, without a doubt. And that was very moving, and we were very careful about how we staged that. It wasn't too singing and dancing. It was just done with the right respect to get the players out. So it was amazing. And also we had such a brilliant season as well, like you say. We were unbeaten. And it's one of those strange things. I wonder if that season had happened the season before, whether we could have gone on to win the title the next year. I still don't know. Nobody can ever answer that because, of course, we went to Wembley. And, we had some good results at Wembley, but it was obviously different because it felt truly like, it was a fortress. It really was a fortress right at the very end. Yeah,
because I've got some great memories of that. I've got a very good football memory as well. The one that stands out for me is the 5-3 game when Kane scored 3 that day.
Yeah.
I think Townsend scored. I've got memory of Townsend scoring that day.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some great games, and we used to go. It was a great feeling to be able to go, and something that we'd never really had too much of, where we'd go in there and think, right, who are we going to beat today? And it didn't matter who we were playing. We were absolutely confident that we would go and win the game. And it was just so exciting. There was great feeling in the stadium. And I am seeing that now. I'm seeing that now. There's the noise in the new stadium. There's excitement. There's expectation. We've probably got to get a few more wins under our belt to get to that same situation. But it's just all about, it's a great feeling at the moment.
Yeah, I just want to talk to you about, obviously, I was at the Arsenal game last year, and then the Burnley game, because for me, the Arsenal game atmosphere was just incredible.
Yeah.
And then that Burnley game was a little bit tense because everybody knew that Arsenal were playing Newcastle.
That's right.
The following day, it was quite weird, Paul, because I remember you being on the pitch at the end of the game, doing the presentation with the players. And I remember thinking this could be such an important day.
Yeah, we all felt the same way. It really was an important day, wasn't it? Because then we had to go away to Norwich, and for those die-hard Spurs fans, because there wasn't really any doubt that we win, but Spurs fans, as you know, you probably haven't got it like a lot of us have, where we think, oh no, we're going to go to Norwich and we're going to. I mean, what did you think? Were you absolutely confident that we would go to Norwich and win?
No, I was still really nervous. I was still really nervous at 1-0 actually, because
Yeah.
that kind of gave me the same feeling that Middlesbrough did last year. Don't know
Mm,
if you watched the game, but we played Middlesbrough, we go a goal up, and then they get a goal back and win
yeah.
the game.
Yeah. I don't think inwardly it was like I was certain we were going to win, but there's still that part of me that is just like, oh, can you imagine? Can you imagine? Arsenal go away at Newcastle and lose. They get a result at home, and then we blow it against the team that goes down at the bottom. So probably the easiest team to beat, but it was nothing like it, was it? We absolutely
Oh,
bossed it, and we were great.
amazing. I think it was also special because Son got those 2 goals. Uh,
Yeah, and the golden boot. Yeah,
put him the golden boot. This podcast is actually called Sensational Spurs because Son is my favourite player. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, obviously Son's not started well. I watched the full game on Saturday. He obviously had a few chances on Saturday, especially in the first half. But
Mm.
I think Son's time will come again because he's.
It will, of course, it will. No question. Yeah, it's every striker, every player goes through a lack of form. It's the old thing about, form is temporary, but class is permanent. And he is a great player. And he's a fantastic fella as well. I've got to tell you, Reegan. I mean, you'd love him. He's so nice,
Oh,
so friendly, hasn't changed at all. Just everything you would want him to be. When they say don't meet your heroes, if you meet Sonny, you'll be fine.
yeah,
And he's great. So he just needs one to go off his backside, something to go in, and then he'll end up with a couple of goals, and then he'll be away. So I've absolutely no worry about him at all.
yeah. I think I would cry if I met him, to be honest.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, just talking about Antonio Conte there, what do you think he's achieved? Possibly could be achieving at Spurs. Because I said this to my friend the other day, right?
Mm.
I don't think that Conte's going to come in here and go, right, Spurs will finish fourth, and I'm pretty happy with that. I think Conte's got the respect. He's got that, not the confidence, but the arrogance to go, right, we're not going to accept just finishing fourth this season. We
Yeah,
want, we want to really step up and really show people that we can be a real team and know the bigger test
yeah.
than going to Manchester on Saturday night.
No, he knows, but also I'm sure there's someone in the back of his mind that thinks this club hasn't won the title since 1961. So many managers have come through. So many managers have tried it. There's some managers that have nearly got there, but not quite. I'm the guy. This is what great managers have. They have that ego and that self-confidence and belief that tells them that he's not going to come here just to think, well, I'll take a few quid. I'll finish top four. We'll have a little run in Europe. We'll see how that goes. He's there to win stuff. There's no question about it. Of course, for any Spurs fan to go, oh, we're going to win the title, none of us would ever dare say it. But if there's a plan, maybe not this year, maybe next year, maybe the year afterwards, but we've got to be up there challenging because there's no reason why we can't be. There really is no reason why we can't be.
So Paul, as that famous Spurs song goes, watching Tottenham on a Wednesday night, Tottenham will be playing on Wednesday night against Marseille, back,
Yeah,
back in the Champions League. That's going to be so special.
it is. It is going to be special. Can't wait. And so I don't know whether we probably would have played this before most people would have seen this game, but it is so special. Those Champions League nights are just so brilliant, and you just feel it. And it's that old history, the Spurs history, as you would know, the playing in all white that goes back to the early '60s. And it's a nod to that as well. It's very, very special to the club. So, yeah, can't wait. Absolutely can't wait.
Yeah, and do you think we can do well? Because for me, that just takes me back to Dele Alli putting a great performance in against Real Madrid, and
Yep.
that Son goal in Manchester. Just got so many good memories. Then you've got um, that amazing night in Amsterdam for Lucas Moura as well.
Oh, God.
Unbelievable.
Even people of my age look at that and go, that was the greatest Spurs night or excitement watching
Oh,
Spurs I have ever had. I was at Wembley in 81. I was at Wembley in 91 with Gascoigne's free kick. I've had some moments where I've gone absolutely bananas and lost it. But that, I wasn't there. But I was at home and I was watching it with my son. And that moment, that third goal went in because, it's everybody says this, and we all know the story that we thought, we were dead and buried. It was over.
I did.
And we were like relaxed, just watching it and thinking, do I bother watching the rest of this? Then we get one back. Then we get two. And it's like, surely not. And it was, honestly, there's about 5 minutes of my life that I completely lost because I was going so mad.
So
but everybody was the same. And I was like, I was crying. I'm thinking, I don't even know why I'm crying. But because it was just, the release was unbelievable, wasn't it? How was it for you? Same?
Yeah, I mean, I was in the pub and everybody was telling me to calm down a bit, but I was going
Yeah. Were there many other Spurs fans there? Were you the only Spurs fan?
Yeah, I was. I was watching it with my uncle, but yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. I just want to talk to you about Spurs in general because I think now we've got a great squad there. We've got Son, Kane, Richarlison as well. See for me, Richarlison, right? He played amazing for the full 90 minutes on Saturday.
I agree.
It was amazing. There was one time where I thought, this guy's got so much confidence, so much. I don't mean arrogance again, Paul, but
I know what you mean.
He just knows he's a very good player.
I agree.
I think there was a point in the first half where he played that ball into to Højbjerg, and you just thought, this guy just knows he's a very good player.
I didn't realise how good he was. Do you know what I mean? I'd always seen all the housery and the stuff at Everton, and I've got Everton fans and friends, and they'd say, we loved it, absolutely love him. But for me, that performance that he had at the weekend, he didn't give the ball away once. I was watching him. He did not give the ball away. And every player, you see something happen, they'll give the ball away, a pass will go astray. He never gave the ball. And I'd love to see the stats because I thought he was magnificent. And it was what we want. It was someone, and you can see why Conte would have wanted him because he's such a hard worker. And he's got that attitude, that certain arrogance, and he wants to score. And he's got it. And Spurs fans, if they haven't already, which most have, he's going to be a very special player for us. I really think so, and I just think he fits perfectly.
Yeah, but I mean that was just typical Tottenham on Saturday. That as soon as we go 2-0 up, I got a text from my uncle saying, "I bet you're going to still be nervous," and then Mitrovic just scored. And
of course you are.
No.
Of course you're still going to be nervous. When we beat Arsenal 5-1 in the League Cup back in 2017 was it? 2007, sorry. And even then we were 4-1 up, and we're still thinking, oh God, it's 10 minutes to go. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what being a Spurs fan's all about. But that it still happens less and less, but it's in our DNA. Of course, we're always going to feel that way. But really, we're okay. We don't give away stuff like that anymore. He says, touching wood.
Paul, so I want to now talk to you about, because I'm doing a radio degree.
Right.
So I want to ask you, so you spoke about being on the radio there.
Yes.
So obviously radio will be close to you.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you get into it and stuff like that?
I was one of these that, since I was a kid, I always knew I wanted to be a DJ on the radio. So the biggest station in London was Capital Radio back in the, this is back in the 80s, early 80s. And I used to listen to it. I remember when I was at school, I used to listen religiously, and I thought, this is what I want to do. Absolutely wanted to do it. And I've still got cassettes, little tapes of me being a DJ, and I'd play the adverts in, and I'd play the songs. I'd talk like this, and I do it. And so it was always what I wanted to do. So I never really knew how to do it because nobody in my family ever did anything like that. I didn't know I didn't know anybody that did anything like that. And it was like, well, I knew that I was going to do it, but how? I didn't know. I remember having meetings at school, and with careers people, and they're saying, what do you want to do? And I say, I want to be in the radio. And they said, well, you can't, because people don't get jobs like that. You know, you could maybe go to the BBC and be an engineer. You could maybe do that. There could be, it's very difficult, but to be a DJ on the radio, it's just never going to happen. So, cut a long story short, because there's lots of years to go through. I'd left school and I was at a technical college, and I was still making these tapes. And then there was a girl in the maths class said, does anybody want to go on hospital radio? Because there's a hospital radio station. Does anybody want to do it and be a DJ on there? And I went, I do. That's what I want to do. And she said, well, come along. So I took my mate with me. We went along. And I thought, I don't really know about this. I don't really want to do all request collecting. I want to do a show. So I left the tape, and I didn't go back. And then I got a call, and they said, you know, we really like what you did. Would you come in and do a show for us?
Oh,
so I went in. Yes, I went in and did that. And the guy who was running it was the librarian at Capitol at the time. And so they saw, because I hear it now, and I don't see any talent in what I was doing, but they saw something and said, oh, you know, you could do something. So then what happened next? So then there was then I was a tour guide on the buses in London. I used to sit on the left-hand side or the right side doing all this. And there was a shop, there was Virgin Megastore, which was huge in London. And they opened it, and there was one down the road. There was a record shop right near Marble Arch, where my buses used to go from. And in there, I heard they had DJs in the shop. So I went in and I said, look, I'm a DJ and I've got a cassette. Would you listen to it? Now, amazingly, this is 1986. The guy who I went in to speak to, who ran the radio station in the shop, was Pete Abbott. And Pete is now the announcer at Spurs. So he's the guy that does the... I mean, it's amazing how all these years... So anyway, he said, yeah, I like it. And they gave me a job in there. So it wasn't much. It was like £2.50 an hour or something like that. And I was a DJ, but I was learning the trade. And me and Pete used to talk about Spurs. Oh, you're a Spurs fan. I'm a Spurs fan. So who would have known all these years on that we would have met up again? So anyway, after that, then that closed. And I thought, oh, God, there's my chance. And then the Virgin Megastore, I went to see them, which was this was like the ultimate in-store radio station. So I saw a guy in there, it was John Revel, who ended up working with Chris Evans, and he ended up running Virgin Radio. So he gave me some shifts. Then I heard there was a job going up in Peterborough at Hereward Radio, because in those days there were all these local stations around the country, which is where you can really learn your craft. Where now, unfortunately, a lot of them, most of them don't exist, because there's no such thing as local radio apart from the BBC. Went up there, did that, and then again, getting better and better. Then went to Virgin Radio when that went on the air. So that was 93. And then I was on national radio from then on. So it's getting experience, gaining experience, learning on the job, because there were no radio degrees when I started out. There were no courses on learning how to do it. So you would learn as you go. And then you get to learn how you do it. And then, for example, if you do courses, they'll teach you the basic way of doing it. And then you will find your own way of how to do it with your own style and your own, whether it be anything from editing up to presenting, you will then come into yourself and then find your own way of doing it. So it's pretty much been a build up over those years. So I'm still lucky. So now I'm on Talk Sport. So all these years on. So professionally on the radio, 34 years now, and still getting away with it.
And so you talk about Talk Sport there. Talk Sport's a really big radio station now in terms of people listening, people phoning in. You're also doing GB News as well. On the sport there as well. I did see you had Mr. Redknapp on last week as well.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I love Harry, and I'm working with Harry at the end of the month as well. And I always got on very well with him when he was Spurs manager, and then we'd bump into each other, and funny enough, they booked him for deadline day. So I was working with Eamon Holmes as well at the time, and Eamon's great. And said, oh, Harry's on. I said, well, I know. They didn't even know that knew that I knew Harry so well. So that was great. So Eamon knew Harry, and Harry is, if ever you want to do an interview, the easiest interview you will ever get, because you just throw one thing, it's probably like me, and then away it goes. But Harry's great. So it's great to have Harry on.
Yeah. See in terms of Talk Sport and that, Paul, I want to ask you about in terms of you doing that. Do you feel like over the years you've really developed into a good broadcaster? Because obviously at the start you're just kind of learning, but now you must feel like you're totally into it and you're doing it really well because Talk Sport's a big station and that must be a big privilege to be on that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, of course it is. It's but I've been doing national radio for a long time, and I've been doing it a long time. But you never lose the something. I mean, I'm always very particular about going on the air and thinking I've got to make sure I'm prepared. And see, preparation is so important because there are people who just rock up and just go on the air and think, oh, that's easy. I can just do that. But if you stick around, if you manage to keep around, you've got to just be prepared and also never lose, basically never get cocky about it. You know what I mean? And never take it for granted what you're doing because it can go like that. I mean, we've all had, a lot of us that have been in the career this long have had peaks and troughs. There've been times a few years ago, couldn't get any work, and then it goes out, disappears. And then there'll spark will go, and then you back away and then you start again. And then, who knows, in a couple of years, I might not be doing it. And then someone else will come along, but it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. But it is a great privilege to be working on such a huge station, and I love it and never take it for granted at all. It's the same with all the work that I do.
I just wanted to ask you, Paul, just before we go.
Yeah.
Who would be the standout interview, whether it's Spurs or sport, or who would be the standout person that you've interviewed?
For me, I've done loads of film stars, like Tom Hanks was great, and from Harrison Ford and all the big ones. But for me, it was David Frost. So David Frost, who I always looked up to as, I just loved the fact that he was, and if David Frost, who's no longer with us, was the great interviewer going through the 60s and the 70s. He'd fly from New York, he'd do shows in America, then fly back over here. And always wanted to meet him. And I'd read his book and I loved the style of interviews that he'd done. So he was a big hero to me. So he came in on a show that I did and we got on like a house on fire. And it was just great. So it was a real thrill to have him on my show. And he used to come on sort of 3 or 4 times. So I got to know him. Spurs-wise, people like Klinsmann, to meet Jurgen Klinsmann for the first time, another great hero. And that was on the Arsenal game, the penultimate game at White Hart Lane. I finally got him to tick him off on my box because I'd always had this empty box to tick as far as Klinsmann was concerned. And then he came along. And then I did an hour special with Jurgen for TalkSport called My Sporting Life and spent an hour with him talking about his career. So that was actually a huge thrill. So no, I've met some great people. It's always easier for me to interview them and speak to them. I'd always call it in real life and not real life. When I'm interviewing them, I feel as if I'm doing a job. And then afterwards, that's when I become the little boy and then start going, oh my goodness, Jurgen Klinsmann. Oh my God, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? During an interview, it's easy because you kind of lead it. But in real life, it's always a bit more scary. But yeah, I've been truly blessed to meet them all. Dave Mackay, going back to the 60s, the double side. All the 81 side, Gascoigne. So really for me, I've met them all and I've got a book and which I get everybody to sign, which goes back from when I started at Spurs. So if there's anybody that's not in there, I always get them to sign it. So there's a lot of autographs in there. So I'm always a fan first and foremost more than anything else.
So Paul, I just want to thank you for your time. It's been great to have you on. I'm sure Spurs fans will enjoy this. I just want to ask you, what's your predictions for Saturday against Manchester City? And
don't ask me. Oh no, I can't believe it. It's, I'm never going to predict the win, but you never know. You know what I mean? Last year we thought we were going to absolutely tonked, and we pulled this great performance out of the bag. I mean, it really was. What a game! And Man City hate playing us because we're their bogey side. So I predict that we will go up and we'll go and win them. And we'll go and beat them. Why the hell not? So let's keep our fingers crossed, Reegan, and hope it happens.
In terms of this season, Paul, are you thinking that we can do better than top 4 and hopefully end that trophy route of 2008?
Yeah, I think we're due for a trophy. I'd love to see us win something. I'll take whatever it is, whether it be the League Cup, whether it be the FA Cup, I'll take the Champions League. I'll take that.
Yeah, same,
and I'll take the Premier League. Time to win something. And I'm very confident that we're going to have a very good season. Very good season.
Paul, thank you very much. It's been great to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me. It's been really good to speak to you. You've done a great job. David Frost would look down on you and think, yeah, that guy asked pretty good questions. So well done. Thank you.
Cheers, Paul.